Whenever they has a need, whenever they have a need, they will go to them. They were not bred and fed with the idea that each man and each woman is responsible as a member of society to build society, starting with their own lives and their families, and to contribute to the enhancement of society. How many times there are opportunities for us to do things to enhance society, and what we do? We take a back seat. We take a back seat. We have all the excuses for never being punctual, for never being present, for never contributing. You go around the Muslim society and deal with the average Muslim, what I'm telling you is a reality. If you meet 10 Muslims, 9 out of 10 are like that. I have been in this society, and I'm still appealing to this society. They have all the energy for what is in their interest. Their interest is not the deen of Allah. They masquerade under the deen of Allah. They brought a lot of stagnation to the deen of Allah. They brought up themselves and their families that they are Muslims. But they have very little to contribute to the sublimation of the human society. The prophets of Allah did not bring religion, where people go through motions, where people make recitations, where people sing slogans, where people dress up in a certain way and make it look that they are very lofty and they're very pure and they're very divine. Prophets didn't come with this kind of nonsense. Prophets brought values for social order. They brought principles for life. They brought the spectacles by which people will not only see, but will develop insight and foresight. That was the world order that the prophets brought. And you could imagine the terrible time they had, because they were dealing with people who believed they had religion. They were dealing with people who had priests. They were dealing with people, in the language of the word, who had imams, who had religious leaders. The Arabs were not short of religion. They had 360 gods. How can people who have 360 gods be short of religion? What they were short of was a divine, lofty social order. What is society missing today? They don't short of religion. They miss a divine social order. The Muslims of the world, they are missing a divine social order. The Christians of the world are missing a divine social order. The Hindus of the world are missing a divine social order. In a divine social order, you don't discriminate against anybody. The Sharia is for the enhancement of the human race, not to act as prejudice against somebody because of their face, because of their dress, because of their name, because of certain notions that they make. You and I are not following the divine social order when we treat the human society the way it is today. We have to purge ourselves if you love Mohammed. We have to purge ourselves if you love Jesus. We have to cleanse ourselves if you love Moses. You cannot love Moses and love Jesus and love Mohammed and continue to unleash atrocities and miseries on the human beings, and then rationalize it and say, oh, you're authorized by religion to do that because they are not like us. It's like what the people in the time of the Prophet used to say, when he used to ask them to be kind and considerate and give the opportunities to the people who are uneducated, that they can know the facts. They will say, لَيْسَ عَلَيْنَا فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ سَبِيلٌ. We have no responsibility to these backwards and stupid people. We have responsibilities to everybody. We must treat every human being as a human. We should not exploit anybody. We should not oppress anybody. We should not enslave anybody. We should not mesmerize anybody. We should not deceive them. It's not the deen of Allah. And the Qur'an, the Prophet was told by Allah. He said, that which you are calling your society to. This Prophet was calling his society that was made up of so-called followers of Moses. They claimed they are the followers of Moses. And they had people who said, we are the followers of Jesus. And of course there are people who say, we follow you too, Mohamed. So he said to them, he said, all these messengers of God, they brought what? The deen of Allah. Deen doesn't mean religion. It means the social order, where the values transcend those vested racist, prejudice values that we have in society, where people see themselves and their position because of their color, because of their nationality, because of their language, because of who their mother and father was, or which religion they belong to. They take their superiority from all of these. None of this has grounds for superiority. Superiority lies in one who is more careful in dealing with divine loftiness and who does the greatest social work to enhance the lives of human beings and to remove darkness from their vision of life. So Allah told the Prophet that what you are doing, calling people to have unity of focus, كَبُرَ عَلَى الْمُشْرِكِينَ مَا تَدْعَوْهُمْ إِلَيْهِ. This is the most difficult thing you're asking them to do, O Prophet. And you and I are being tried right here in this verse. You and I are being tried right here in this verse. Because this was the trial of the people of the Prophet. The question is, do you really believe that Jesus brought the message of Deen Allah? That Moses brought the message of Deen Allah? If I do accept that, I cannot just like that despise somebody because he says he's a Christian, or despise somebody because he says or she says I'm a Hindu, and I cannot love somebody blindly because he or she said they're Muslims. Because everybody, based on what they say, they are putting up themselves for analysis. We cannot be followers of Prophet Muhammad and have these kind of prejudices in us. One of the mighty principles of the Deen of Allah is the universal unity of humanity. When love starts to come back in your heart and my heart, that you see human beings as humans, that's the beginning of Deen of Allah. There are many of us who walk the streets, or we belong to institutions where we hear one group ridiculing the other. I know many sermons, many khutbahs, curse the people who are not, quote-unquote, the Muslims. Right? Because why? The Muslims fall into the same category like others. I have non-Muslims who are my neighbors and I speak to them very often. And very often they tell me of the extremism that goes on in the preaching in the church. And I tell them lots of that exists in Muslim preachings too in the masjid. Because why? Ignorance is not restricted to one part of the globe. It's spread all over. And when you stand up there and you are blind and you go to a blind institution, it's blindness you get. And what they tell you that we are all children of paradise. We are all going to go to paradise. But all of those people out there, they are in hell already. And they tell you the same thing. You are all condemned to hell. We have to understand that hell and heaven, these two English words, they are not really in the Qur'an. These are translations. These are really translations.